والسلام على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين أما بعد. Right, so make sure you guys keep revising, okay? We have a lot to take, that's why I'm not going to take too long on the revisions. It depends on the day. It depends on the hadith as well. If the hadith explanation itself is a bit shorter, I can do more revision. But the issue is with the Isha coming after, I don't want to risk it. So just quickly, quick questions. You said you've revised 3 and 4 and a bit of 5. So I'll test you on that. What's new in hadith number 3 which is not in hadith number 2, Rayyan?
The bunyan.
Bunya, the word bunya. Islam is built. So that, what does that give us the meaning of? That, what do we benefit from that word?
Foundation.
Yeah, so that these 5 things mentioned here, they're the pillars of Islam, they're the foundations of Islam. Whereas if you just look at Hadith Jibreel, inform me about Islam, the person was mentioned 5 things, he didn't say it was pillars. So other ulama got it from that these are pillars, from this wording here, bunya. Right. Hadith number 3 is a foundation hadith in which chapter, Rafiq?
Hadith number 3.
Yeah. Sorry, hadith number 4. So hadith number 1 is foundation in intentions, or in our inner actions. Hadith number 2 in the levels of the religion. Hadith number 3 in the pillars of Islam. Number 4? Qadr. The main thing is al-Qadr. The main thing is al-Qadr. So the hadith talks about 2 things: the development of mankind, and then al-Qadr and endings. Right. And hadith number 5. Did hadith number 5 talk about
the refutation of
bid'ah? Yeah. So just as hadith number 1 is the scale for our inner actions, hadith number 5 is the scale for our outward actions, which has to be following the sunnah and not opposing the sunnah, which is what we call bid'ah. Now, there's a lot to ask, subhanAllah. Regarding, let's just quickly do bid'ah. What's the definition of bid'ah? Well, we said 4 things. What are the 4 things quickly, together?
something
Newly invented.
Something that doesn't have evidence.
It doesn't have evidence, foundation. Attribute to religion.
Prophet had a need to do it.
The person had the need, he could do it, and there's nothing preventing the Prophet ﷺ from doing it. How do you answer the statement of Umar, ni'matu bid'atu hadhi?
So say again.
The statement of Umar, this is a good bid'ah. How do you refute that? If someone uses that to say there's a good bid'ah.
The statement of the Salaf, what they said. Ibn Masud said, they invent something new into religion, they invent something evil, seeming as if something good. As a foundation, that's the reason that Prophet did to it. And however, there's a percentage at the time.
Yeah. So firstly, it's not something new, because the Prophet did it, but he stopped because of the mani'. The mani' is no longer there. Then Umar got all the Sahaba together. Therefore, when he says ni'matu bid'atu hadhi, what does he mean by it? The linguistic meaning. He means by it the linguistic meaning. And we did say there's another narration, even though the narration is not 100% authentic, it still does, help with the meaning, which is, what's the full narration? Ni'matu bid'atu hadhihi in kana bid'atan, if it is a bid'ah. Obviously, this is not like a foundational point, because the chain isn't the strongest, but still, it's another point which could be used, especially with Ahlul Bid'ah. If they turn around and say, oh, it's weak, look who's talking. Yeah? No. Give me some reasons what causes bid'ah to spread. Ignorance, what else?
So ignorance of Arabic language.
Arabic language, ignorance of hadith, narrations. Non-knowing narration of salaf. Following desires. Following intellect. Following mutashabih. What else? Join the 2 together. One was we talked about what caused it to spread in the beginning, and then the second thing we talked about is how does it spread even more. But put them together for now quickly. Speaking without knowledge.
Using false sources.
That comes under ignorance of hadith and narrations.
What's the one that says the customary, they give customary actions?
Yeah, so the bid'ah becomes a custom. It becomes a custom. Yeah. What else? Says sukut al-ulama, ulama remaining quiet. Khas, okay. What are 2 types of bid'ah from the angle of the ruling of bid'ah? مكفرة غير مكفرة مفسقة. Good. نعم. Okay, خلاص. You got a decent idea. I didn't ask too much details, but it's okay for today, inshallah. نعم.
Yeah.
That's the problem with students. They ask for detail, and when you test them, they don't know it. It's okay for today, alhamdulillah. Right. Let's take hadith number 6 بإذن الله تعالى. Now I'm just thinking, did I send a recitation of hadith number 6?
I don't think so.
No. Because you memorized it though. Because I'll record it as well, just for those that haven't memorized it. Hadith number 7 is short anyway. Hadith number 7 is about 3 lines. So don't worry about that, inshallah. But go on. Who's memorized it? Put your hand up. Go on, Tanzil. Bismillah. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Say Bismillah. You did? Loud, Lina. Don't say it to yourself.
الرحمن الرحيم. الحديث السادس عن أبي عبد الله النعمان بن بشير رضي الله عنهما قال سمعت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم يقول إن الحلال بين وإن الحرام بين وبينهما مشتبهات لا يعلمهن كثير من الناس.
Okay.
فمن اتقى الشبهات استبرأ لدينه وعرضه ومن وقع في الشبهات وقع في الحرام.
كلام محب.
كالراعي يرعى حول الحمى يوشك أن يرتع فيه.
كلام توفيقا.
ألا وإن لكل ملك حمى.
ما؟
ملك.
نعم ملك.
ألا وإن لكل
مالي.
ملك.
Yeah. Not ملك مالك. So كسر on the lim. On the lam.
ألا وإن لكل ملك حمى ألا وإن حمى الله محارمه ألا وإن
Karen?
ألا وإن في الجسد مضغة إذا صلحت صلح الجسد كله وإذا فسدت فسد الجسد كله ألا وهي القلب. رواه البخاري ومسلم.
رواه البخاري ومسلم. So malak with a fatha means angel. Malik with a kasra means king. Right? Okay. And إذا صلحت, you can say the word صلح, you can say it in two ways. صلح, and you can say صالوحة. You can put a dhamma on the lam as well. Both are correct. So the hadith, we quickly read it, the translation which is in the notes. That which is lawful is clear, and that which is unlawful is clear, and between the two of them are ambiguous matters about which many people do not know. Thus, he who avoids doubtful matters and ambiguous matters clears himself in regards to his religion and his honor. But he who falls into ambiguous matters falls into that which is unlawful, like the shepherd who pastours around the sanctuary, all but grazing therein. Truly every king has a sanctuary, and Allah's sanctuary is his prohibitions. Truly in the body there is a morsel of flesh, which if it be whole, no, I don't like the word whole, if it is sound, or if it is rectified, if it be rectified, let's change it, rectified, all the body is rectified, and which if it is diseased, all of the body is diseased. Okay. No, say corrupted. Change the corrupted. Truly it is the heart. This translation, by the way, I just copied and pasted it, but I'm the first time reading it. Right, I should read it more. Okay, narrated by Bukhari and Muslim. Okay, this hadith is a very important hadith, inshallah. We'll go through it, so don't worry about it, inshallah. Takhrij of the hadith is narrated by Bukhari and Muslim. It's in Bukhari, hadith number 3208. It's in a few places, so 3208, and then also 3332, 3332, and 6594, 6954, and 7454, 7454. So in Bukhari it is 3208, 3332, 6594, and 7454. And as for Sahih Muslim, then it is hadith number 2643. Hadith number 2643. As for hadith benefits, then subhanallah, this actual wording of the hadith, oh subhanallah, 1 second, that's my bad, I'm looking at the wrong hadith. I've told you the wrong takhrij, I'm looking at the wrong hadith. I was thinking, Right, let me do that again. So it's muttafaqun alayhi. It's in Bukhari, only one place in Bukhari. 2051. 2051. And in Muslim, 1599. Because as soon as I read the hadith benefits, I was like, huh? And I realized, Allah Akbar. So Bukhari is in one place, 2051, and Muslim 1599. Is that okay? Yeah. As for the ta'liqat hadithiyah, then the wording which is in Arba'een is the wording of Imam Muslim. Is the wording of Imam Muslim. Now, as for the status of the hadith, then the hadith has a great status. I've already written it out for you, some of the statements, so you don't really need to write them down. Imam Nawawi rahimahullah, he said, the scholars have consensus upon the tremendous station of this hadith, its abundant benefits, and that it is one of the ahadith that Islam revolves around. Ibn Daqiq al-Eid, he said, this hadith is a tremendous foundation from the foundations of the Sharia. And Imam Ahmad, he said, and this statement of Imam Ahmad, by the way, we mentioned also in hadith number 1. He said, the foundations of Islam revolve around 3 ahadith. The hadith of Umar, actions about the intentions. The hadith of Aisha, whoever innovates in our affair, which is not from it, is rejected. And the hadith of Nu'man ibn Bashir, the halal is clear and the haram is clear. So Imam Ahmad said this religion is based upon 3 ahadith. إنما الأعمال بالنيات من أحدث في أمرنا هذا ما ليس منه فهو رد, and إن الحلال بين. These 3 ahadith. So what are the 3 hadith? The first hadith is hadith number 1 in Arba'in. The second hadith is hadith number 5. And the third hadith is hadith number 6, the hadith that we are studying. Okay, so these 3 hadith teaches what? The first hadith teaches about our intentions. The second, of following the sunnah. And the third, about halal is clear, haram is clear, and between ambiguous matters. So if you put it all together, how is it the whole religion? It's the whole religion because what's halal you can do, and what's haram you stay away from. And whenever you do an action, make sure you're doing it sincerely for Allah, and you're following the sunnah for Islam in that. And then there are ambiguous matters which you're not sure about, just leave them off. That's it. That's your methodology for the rest of your life. That's what Islam comes back to. What you're told to do, do it. What you're told to stay away from it. Whilst you follow the sunnah and you are sincere to Allah. And anything which is ambiguous, just to make sure, stay away from it. So in regards to what we have to do, this would be enough. Wallahu a'lam. As for the narrator of the hadith hadith is Abu Abdullah Nu'man ibn Bashir al-Ansari. Nu'man ibn Bashir al-Ansari al-Khazraji. Him and his father were both Sahaba. In fact, Nu'man ibn Bashir, they say that he was the first baby to be born for the Ansar after the Prophet did Hijrah. He was the first baby to be born for the Ansar after the Prophet ﷺ did Hijrah. And his mother was the sister of Abdullah ibn Rawaha radiallahu anhu. And during the rule of Muawiyah ibn Abi Sufyan radiallahu anhuma, he was in charge of Kufa. And he passed away in the year 65 after Hijrah. And there is an issue, which is, if he was born after Hijrah, that means, at what age was he when the Prophet ﷺ passed away? Approximately?
11.
About 10 years old. From the conditions of accepting hadith, as we mentioned before, what are the conditions of Sahih Hadith? No contradictions. Full chain. Trustworthy narrators. No hidden defects and perfect memory. As for trustworthiness, al-adalah, we mentioned before that there are 2 main things which need to be there. At-taqwa, al-muru'ah. But the ulama do mention, these are the main ones, but they do mention other conditions as well. From the conditions is that the narrator has to be baligh. Now, if Nu'man ibn Bashir radiallahu anhu was born after Hijrah, and when the Prophet passed away, he was 10, meaning he is with the Prophet under the age of 10. How can you accept the narration of a kid? Why are we accepting his narrations? Huh? Probably 10. Person passed away when he was 10, that means the person was with him and he heard those hadith before he was 10.
So you need to go to ahadith afterwards when you're being older.
Anything else? Alright, in hadith we have two things. You have something called at-tahammul, and the second thing is called al-ada. At-tahammul is when the person hears the hadith. When he hears the hadith. Al-ada is when the person narrates the hadith to others. These conditions that we mentioned, of him having taqwa, him being having muru'ah, him being a Muslim, him being at the age of puberty, and so on, these are all conditions when it comes to al-ada, when it comes to narrating the hadith. As for listening to the hadith, then they are not conditions. And that's why you have many narrations. You have Jubair ibn Mut'im radiallahu anh. He said, when he heard the Prophet ﷺ recite Surah At-Tur, in one narration he said, when I heard this surah, كاد قلبي أن يطير, that my heart felt like it was about to fly, come out of my body. In another narration he says, this is the first time Iman hit my heart. Especially at the ayat, أم خلقوا من غير شيء أم هم الخالقون أم خلق السماوات والأرض بل لا يوقنون. Do they think that أم خلقوا من غير شيء, were they created from nothing? أم هم الخالقون, or did they create themselves? أم خلق السماوات والأرض, or did they create the heavens and the earth? Point being is that when he heard Surah At-Tur, when it was revealed, as you can tell in one of the narrations where he said, this is the first time Iman hit my heart, that means he heard this surah when he was a non-Muslim. This was before he accepted Islam. So then, when he narrated it after accepting Islam. So we accept his narration because at the time of al-ada, the conditions were fulfilled. As for the time of tahammul, we don't need to look into these conditions. So the same thing here for Abu Abdullah and Nu'man ibn Bashir radiallahu anh. And the same goes for many other companions, Ibn Umar, Ibn Abbas. Right? They were all kids when they were with the Prophet ﷺ. They were very young. Ibn Abbas was 13 when the Prophet ﷺ passed away. Ibn Umar was very young as well. But we don't accept the hadith at that age. We accept it once they were older. Yeah. Okay, the next point is, what is the general meaning of this hadith? The general meaning of this hadith is that this hadith, it tells us that the rulings are one of three types. Either it's something clearly halal, or it is clearly haram, or it is ambiguous, where you do not know if it's halal or haram. We're going to talk about the word ambiguous shortly, inshallah. So this hadith teaches us that for us, the rulings are either clearly halal, clearly haram, or they're ambiguous. And it tells us what to do with each one. If it's halal, we're allowed to do it. If it's haram, then we should stay away from it. And if it is ambiguous, then the hadith also informs us that it's better to stay away from it. If it's doubtful, it's better to stay away from it. And then the end of the hadith talks about the importance of taking care of our hearts. The end of the hadith talks about the importance of taking care of our hearts. So this is the general meaning of the hadith. And the ulama, when they summarize the hadith, as we said, every single hadith that we're taking is a foundation in one of the chapters of Islam. They say that this hadith is a foundation in the topic of al-wara'. Al-wara'. What is al-wara'? Huh? Ahsant. Al-wara' is leaving off that which is permissible out of fear of falling into that which is impermissible. So even if something is permissible, if you fear that, okay, by me doing this, it's going to cause me to fall into something haram, it's going to lead to something greater, then if a person has wara', similar to taqwa and similar to other words like that, that wara', even though in of itself the action is something permissible, that wara' will cause a person to stay away from doing that action. And shortly, inshallah, towards the end of the hadith, we'll read some of the statements of the Salaf and how they will leave off things, even if they were halal, because out of fear of falling into haram. And we're going to talk about how does that happen and so on. There's another word which is very similar to wara', which is called az-zuhd. Az-zuhd. What's the difference between wara' and zuhd? Zuhd is a higher level than wara'. Az-zuhd is a higher level than al-wara'. Al-wara' is leaving off that which will harm you in the akhirah. So you leave off things, why? Because it can harm you in the hereafter. So al-wara' is leaving off that which harms you in the akhirah. Az-zuhd is leaving off that which does not benefit you in the akhirah. Leaving off that which does not benefit you in the akhirah. So it's not going to harm you. There's no sin, there's no punishment. But is there a benefit to it? By you doing this thing, are you benefiting anything from it? No. If it's just a waste of time, then az-zuhd will cause a person to leave that off as well. And as for many of the Salaf, they wrote books titled Az-Zuhd, Abdullah Mubarak, Imam Ahmad, and so on. So this is a very high level that very few people can actually reach. Where normally when they talk about a person who's zahid and has zuhd, they talk about him, disassociating himself with the dunya, meaning he doesn't care about the materialistic things. He'll take what he needs to look after his family, but anything else, if it's not going to benefit him, or if it's just going to be a means of wasting his time where he could, instead of doing that, worship Allah, remember Allah, and so on, then they will leave off that. So these are two words, al-wara' and az-zuhd, which are very similar, but zuhd is a slightly higher level than al-wara'. So this hadith primarily talks about which topic? Al-wara'. Sufyan al-Thawri rahimahullah, he said, I have not seen anything easier than al-wara'. Every time I doubt something, I leave it. If you don't know, just don't do anything. You don't even need to do anything. You just stay away from it. Right, the next thing, just before we go into the actual sentences of the hadith, is the gharib al-hadith. What does gharib al-hadith mean?
Strange words.
Strange words are difficult words. What's the other meaning of gharib in hadith? Hadith gharib.
hadith is a...
How much do you don't know?
It's a hadith which is non-narrated.
لا, it's majhul. Yes, the lowest person in any of the levels is one. So it's let's say one sahabi. So even if it's 100 tabi'een, 2,000 tabi'een, it's gharib because on one of the levels, the lowest number is one. And it could be anyone, it could be sahabi, it could be tabi'een, but anywhere in the chain, apart from obviously the Prophet ﷺ, who's going to be one, and apart from the muhaddith who's written the hadith, apart from him, everyone else in there is one. Okay, let's go through some of the difficult words. Now some of these words do have like technical meanings too as well in usul al-fiqh and so on, but we're not going to go into all of that. Like halal and haram, they have their technical meanings. But for now, we'll stick to a very simple meaning, because the whole point of this is that if you're memorizing in Arabic, you understand what the meaning of the hadith is. Okay? So the first word is halal. I think everyone knows what halal is. Huh? Permissible. Class. Bayyin. What does bayyin mean? Clear. So bayyin means zahir. Don't get confused between the word bayyin and bayna. Bayna means between. But bayyin with a shadda on the ya means يعني ظاهر, واضح, something clear. Al-haram, impermissible. Right, so like I said, there are technical definitions. So some ulama say al-haram is that if you do it, you are deserving of punishment, and that which you leave off intentionally, then you are rewarded. And some ulama have said it is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has commanded with an authoritative command. But we don't need all that. Right now, haram is impermissible. Right, mushtabihat, for now, we leave mushtabihat as ambiguous matters. The next word is the word ittaqa. What does that sound like, Mahid? Sounds like taqwa. So ittaqa means to stay away from in this hadith. So فَمَنْ ittaqa shubuhat, those, the one who stays away from these ambiguous matters. Istabra'a. Istabra'a means talab al-bara'ah, meaning that a person, he seeks to be free of, or seeks to be free from. The word ird means honor. The word ird means honor. The word hima means boundary or sanctuary or jurisdiction, maybe. No, boundary basically. The word yushiku means about to or close to. It's from those verbs in Arabic language, from أخوات of kana. They're called أفعال المقاربة. These verbs that show مقاربة, that you're about to do a certain action. Like كاد خلق. From those is يوشك. The word يرتع means to graze. And the word مضغة, the last word مضغة, means like a morsel of flesh. A morsel of flesh. So let's start the first part of the hadith. So the actual hadith, the Prophet ﷺ, he says, إِنَّ الْحَلَالَ بَيِّنٌ وَإِنَّ الْحَرَامَ بَيِّنٌ. That the halal is clear and the haram is clear. Who can give me an example of things which are clearly halal? Drinking water. What else?
Eating
Food, fruits, vegetables. Food's a bit general, obviously. Fruits, vegetables. And what else? Walking. What else? Huh? Sleeping. As long as it's not missing salah. Right. Examples of things which are clearly haram. Pork. Alcohol. Give me an example.
Cigarettes.
It's haram, لا شك. But some ulama says makruh, so I don't know whether they comment that clearly haram. But نعم, خلاص, if you want to. What else?
Prohibition going to this as well, for example, leaving of the salah.
Yeah, leaving of salah. No, that's haram, obviously. Shirk. Khlas, these are things which are clear. Right. Example of doubtful matters. Khlas, cigarettes, okay. What else?
Abortion.
Okay, we talked about that. Okay, abortion. Right, what else? Right, just keep this in mind. I'm not going to, because I've got a separate, where is it? It's going to come. It's going to come on the next page, yeah? Next page of the worksheets. We're going to talk about ambiguous and what exactly does it mean, what's the exact definition of ulama, I'll give into it. Right. In the hadith, the Prophet ﷺ, when he talks about mushtabihat, things which are ambiguous, he told us to stay away from those things. And the reason the Prophet ﷺ said in the hadith is that whoever stays away from it, then he protects his honor and his religion. Yeah. Now, there's something. Oh, actually, before I mention Daruriyatu Sitta, the whole religion is, the ulama say, is built upon two things. The whole religion is based upon two things: bringing benefit and removing harm. Bringing benefit and removing harm. And I've written for you some lines of poetry by Ibn Sa'idi in his Manzumah Qawaid Fiqhiyah. وَالدِّينُ مَبْنِيٌّ عَلَى الْمَصَالِحِ فِي جَلْبِهَا وَدَرْءِ لِلْقَبَائِحِ. That the whole religion is based upon masalih, upon benefit, في جَلْبِهَا, in attaining them, وَالدَّرْءِ لِلْقَبَائِحِ, and getting rid of things which are repulsive, harmful. So the whole religion is based upon bringing benefit and removing harm. The ulama, they have something called al-daruriyat as-sittah. Some say khamsa, but other ulama have added the sixth one, so we'll mention all six. Al-daruriyat as-sittah basically means, it translates to the six necessities. And what these six things are, these are the six things that the whole religion has come to preserve. Any ruling in the religion, you can bring it back to at least one of these six things. So the ulama, somebody may say, what's your dalil for it? What's your dalil for these six things? It's not a particular hadith. It's when you put all of the rulings together, all of the hadith, all of the ayat. When you put it all together, you see that the religion has come to preserve six things. The first, hifdhud din, to preserve your religion. This is the most important. To preserve your religion. And that's what the Prophet mentioned in this hadith. So even doubtful matters, leave it off. Why? To preserve your religion. Okay. Now the ulama do differ in like the exact ordering of which one's the most important. The most important is the religion. After that, they differ, but we'll mention one of the orderings that they mentioned. The second is to preserve life. The second is to preserve life. So that's why if you're about to die and you're starving and there's nothing that you can eat except pork, are you allowed to eat it? If you're about to die, yeah, are you allowed to eat it? You're allowed to eat it. Why? To preserve your life. The third is to preserve your honor, which is what is mentioned in this hadith. And even there's examples from the Prophet. One day the Prophet was walking with a woman and Sahaba walking past. What did the Prophet say? Innaha. Which wife was it? Innaha Safiya. That this is Safiya, is my wife. I'm not walking with her around the moment, I'm walking with my wife. And obviously the Sahaba, they turned around and they said, "Oh Messenger of Allah, we're not going to think about that about you." And that's when the Prophet said that Shaitan, he runs through the veins of Ibn Adam, meaning Shaitan come and whisper. So why did the Prophet say that? To preserve his honor, to clarify the matter and to preserve his honor. The fourth is to preserve wealth. Why is riba haram? Why do we have all these rulings? Why do we have fiqh of transactions, buying and selling? To preserve our wealth. Number 5, to preserve intellect. Why is khamr, why is alcohol made haram? To preserve our intellect. Why are drugs haram? To preserve intellect, and so on. And the 6th is hifdhun nasab, preserving lineage. So one of the reasons zina is haram, why? It corrupts the lineage. You don't know who the father is, for example. So any ruling in the religion, you can come back to one of these 6 things. So go on, give me some examples. We start off with the straightforward ones, the easy ones, Salah, Quran. Okay, these are all preserving the religion. Give me anything else. A job. Okay, so it's permitted for a person to have a job. Why? To preserve wealth. It comes under preserving wealth. You have enough wealth to look after your family and so on. What else? Marriage. That preserves what? Preserves your lineage and your honor. Exercise. Preserves. Comes life. What else, name? Zakat, preserving wealth. No. And could be preserving life, to the poor that don't have anything. So you can see any example that you give can fit into at least one of these 6. And these are known as al-daruriyat as-sitta. And these are studied in a lot more detail in Qaid Fiqhiyya and also another science called Maqasid al-Sharia, the objectives of the Sharia, which inshallah in the future we can go through. Okay, so if you understand this, that the religion has come with all, these 6 things, we learn from that the religion has come with everything that we need. Anything that we need is in the religion. That's why a lot of people say Islam is a way of life, which is true. It's come with everything. It's not just regarding how to worship Allah, but it's with everything. Everything that we need, Islam has come with. Allah says, وَنَزَّلْنَا عَلَيْكَ الْكِتَابَ تِبْيَانًا لِكُلِّ شَيْءٍ. That Muhammad ﷺ, we sent upon you the Quran, تِبْيَانًا, which will clarify لِكُلِّ شَيْءٍ, everything for you. And that's why you find Abu Dharr radiallahu anhu, he said, the Prophet ﷺ passed away, and there wasn't even a bird flapping its wings in the sky, except that we knew some knowledge regarding it. The Prophet ﷺ told about everything. Is it halal, is it not halal, you have to hunt it, you're not allowed to hunt it. Even regarding that we know. And that's why you'll find, I can't remember, was it the mushrikun or was it the Jews that came to some of the Sahaba and they said that your Prophet, he taught you everything, hatta al-khira'ah, even how to go to the bathroom. And they said, of course. The Prophet ﷺ taught us everything, even how to go to the bathroom, and then he started to explain some of the rulings that the Prophet ﷺ had informed us. So our religion has come with everything that we need, right? Either through the Quran itself or through the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, because the Quran tells us to follow the Sunnah, and it tells us that the Sunnah is explaining the Quran. وَأَنزَلْنَا إِلَيْكَ الذِّكْرَ لِتُبَيِّنَ لِلنَّاسِ. So we sent to you the Quran so that you can clarify and explain it to the people of Muhammad ﷺ. So everything is in the Quran and in the Sunnah. If we understand this is like the foundation for the rest of the hadith now. Okay. Now we come to the issue of mushtabihat. Mushtabihat, generally, before I get to the technical definition, generally we've translated it as what? Ambiguous matters. Now, when we say something is ambiguous, there's 2 types of things being ambiguous. Ambiguosity is 2 types. There's something which is mushtabih, mutlaq, unrestricted ambiguosity, and the second is mushtabih, nisbi, subjective. As for mushtabih mutlaq, unrestricted ambiguosity, then that is not part of the religion. Either it's not part of the religion, or it's something which we are not commanded to find out. Either it's not part of the religion, or it's something which we are not commanded to find out. Or there could be a third option, which is that in reality it's not actually unrestricted, it's actually subjective, but people may think it's unrestricted. Okay, what do you mean by unrestricted? Unrestricted would mean nobody knows. Nobody knows whatsoever except Allah. Is there anything in the religion that we have been commanded to find out or to act upon, which is mushtabih mutlaq? No. Give me an example of something which will be mushtabih mutlaq. When is Yawm al-Qiyamah? Are we commanded to work out when Qiyamah will take place? So it's not something that we are commanded to do. Another thing, give me another example. When will Ad-Dajjal come? The exact year. It's not something we're commanded to do. What else?
What is the ruh?
What is a ruh? What else?
The
Attributes of sifat of Allah. Right, so those things we've not been commanded to find out the details of those things. Nor is there a way, because that's only down to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So when we talk about things which are ambiguous, now in this hadith we are talking about the second type. Mushtabih, nisbi, subjective. Meaning, some ulama may know it and other ulama may not know it. Or people may know it and the people may not know it, but the ulama do know it. Right? So, for example, let's go, you give the example of smoking. You give the example of smoking. Now, smoking, in the beginning, a lot of the ulama said it's makruh. Why? Because mainly they did not know the health harms of it, apart from the fact that it has a bad smell. This is makruh. But now that we all know the harms that it causes you, and Allah says, وَلَا تَقْتُلُوا أَنفُسَكُمْ, do not kill yourselves, and so many of the ayat about not harming ourselves, we know that's haram. So now, for us, it's something which is clear. For something which is clear. But for somebody else, maybe maybe the scholars at that time, or even now, somebody who doesn't know, maybe he's blind following his imam, whatever, for him it's something which is mushtabih, ambiguous. Right? So as you can see, this is mushtabih nisbi. It's mushtabih for one person, but not mushtabih for another person. So this ruling of staying away from ambiguous matters only applies to the one who it is ambiguous for. And if it's not ambiguous for somebody else, then you can do it. Unless by you doing it, it can cause people to have bad assumptions about you, and it can be a means of your honor being attacked, then you leave it off as well. Because the Prophet mentioned that. He mentioned to preserve in this hadith, your religion and your honor. So if by going to a certain place, you know there's no haram in that place, but people have perception, right? Then you should leave it off to protect your honor. Eating a lizard. We know that the Prophet didn't, when it was given to him, he didn't eat, but he said only because it's not from what I normally eat, so I don't feel comfortable eating it. But then Khalid radiallahu anhu, he ate it in front of the Prophet. So we know that's permissible to eat. If somebody says, I don't know, right? I don't know if it's permissible or not. Maybe he doesn't know the hadith. Okay, and I don't think the ijma' on it. There may be a couple of ulama that say it's not permissible. Are we allowed to eat it?
If you don't have that doubt,
Sorry? Yeah, if we don't have that doubt, we're allowed to eat it. Or that person that has that doubt,
should leave it.
he should leave it. Okay? So, are we getting sin for eating it? No, we are not. If by you eating it's going to cause you issues, look, he's eating, or does he not know it's haram, or what's this guy doing? Then you should leave it. Good. Okay. Now we're going to come to the actual technical definition of mushtabih. We're going to come to the technical definition of what something ambiguous is. Now Ibn Rajab rahimahullah, he mentions 3 definitions of what the word mushtabihat means. He mentions 3 definitions of what mushtabihat means. He says number 1, مختلف العلماء في حله. What the ulama have differed in regards to it being permissible and it being impermissible. That's one definition. The ulama differ. Some says halal, some says haram. And this is one of the statements of Imam Ahmad and also Ishaq ibn Rahuyah and other Imams as well. And by the way, all 3 opinions, Imam Ahmad said it. Right? So he's got 3 aqwal. He's got 3 statements in this one issue. They're all similar, but he said 3 things. The second thing he said is, it's manzila bain al-halal wal-haram. The mushtabihat is a level between halal and haram. And then when he said that, he said, مَنِ اتَّقَاهَا فَقَدْ إِسْتَبْرَأَ لِدِينِهِ. Whoever stays away from it, then he has sought to be free from his religion, meaning free from somebody attacking his religion, or free from his religion being attacked. And the third is مَا اخْتَلَطَ فِيهِ الْحَلَالُ وَالْحَرَامُ, that which has a mixture of halal and haram. That which has a mixture of halal and haram. And all these, subhanallah, can apply to mushtabihat. Right? With the ulama different, so you don't know. Some say this, some say that, you don't know what to do. Or, this job, part of it halal, part of it haram, what do I do? Right? So due to that reason, bismillah, I'm going to mention to you a number of other issues, inshallah. So we're going to especially talk about the third statement where Imam Ahmad mentioned, that which has a mixture of halal and haram. The first issue is, how are we going to deal with money which has haram and halal in it? Right? So for example, if somebody called you to their house, right? What do you do? There's 5 scenarios. Is that the adhan?
Yeah.
What time salah? Yes, early, yeah? It's 1:45, right? Yeah, it's 1:45, okay. Just came in. Some uncles do that. So make sure no one else is adhan, they just do it straight. Right. Anyways, the first scenario is that a person's halal, his wealth, all of it, 100% is halal. Okay, then there's no issue in that. Even though, especially nowadays, it's very, very difficult to find somebody who has 100% halal income. SubhanAllah, imagine a story of Imam Ahmad and Imam Shafi'i. The Imam Shafi'i stayed at the house of Imam Ahmad. Imam Ahmad was a student. Even though he was a student, Imam Shafi'i respected him a lot. And he said to him that you are the people of Hadith. Shafi'i said this to Imam Ahmad. You are the people of Hadith. You let us know what's authentic and what's not, and I'll tell you the ruling. Right? So Imam Shafi'i stayed over at the house of Imam Ahmad. And Imam Ahmad said to his daughter, look, this is a great Imam. Watch him, learn from him. And then there were 3 things that he did that she turned around and said to her father, oh, you know about the great Imam. He ate till he's full and he didn't fast. The water he didn't touch, meaning at those days they would put water out for somebody to do wudu with. He didn't touch it, meaning he didn't pray Qiyam al-Layl. And there's a third thing, anyone know? Can't remember what the third thing is right now. So Imam Ahmad was a bit thinking, so he went and he asked him. And Imam Shafi'i said, and this is what links with here, Imam Shafi'i said, I've come to the house of Imam Ahmad. I don't know if I'm ever going to be in a house where I have more certainty that the food's going to be halal, so I ate my food. As for not praying Qiyam al-Layl at night, I was about to sleep, then I thought of a hadith of Prophet ﷺ, Ya Aba Umair, ma fa'ala al-Nughayr. There was a young Sahabi whose pigeon passed away. He had like a pet pigeon passed away. So Prophet who's called Nughayr. So Prophet said, Oh Abu Umair, ma fa'ala al-Nughayr. What did Nughayr do? What did the pigeon do? Prophet trying to talk to him. He said, I started pondering over this hadith and I extracted, I think, 70 benefits. And then there's a third thing as well. So that, subhanAllah, shows you how the Salaf were. Ala kulli hal, somebody whose wealth is fully 100% halal, unless you're Imam Ahmad, especially in our times, very difficult. The second scenario is all of it is haram. Like you know 100% all of it is haram. Not parts haram, we're gonna get to that. Which again is, especially if a Muslim's calling you over, is difficult to say, that everything 100% you know is haram. Then obviously with this, by agreement you stay away from it. Then the third scenario is that the halal is the majority. So a person, the asl is that he has halal money, but there may be like one business he does here, one business he does there, which is haram. In that scenario, what do? We say la bas, you can eat from there. Because the asl is that it's halal. The fourth scenario is where the haram is the most. The haram is the most. Okay, so this is a person where the asl is that everything he does is haram, and there may be a couple of halal things here and there. Now what do we do in this scenario? In this scenario, this is where the khilaf is. This is where the main khilaf is. Even in the madhab of Ahmad, there's 4 different opinions mentioned by Ibn Muflih in his book Al-Furu'. But the main two is the following. The first is that al-wara' necessitates that you leave it off. So someone gives you something or anything like that, and al-wara' necessitates that you just leave it off. But the second opinion, which is that it is makruh. And this seems to be stronger, and this is also the statement or the stance of the Shafi'i and the Malikiyah. It's also the stance of the Shafi'i and the Malikiyah. So therefore this opinion is, we say قول الشافعية والمالكية ورواية عند الحنابلة. Statement of Shafi'i, Maliki and the Shafi'iyah, and a riwayah in the Hanbali madhab. And the dalil for this is many. Where, for example, once the Prophet he was a guest at a Jewish woman's house, and the Prophet accepted the invitation, and he went and he ate. He went and he ate, so that shows that it is permissible. I knew you were going to have a question. I knew it. As soon as I started it, I was like, Rayyan's got a question. He's going to ask a question. What's your question?
How can it be makruh if the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam did it?
So just because the Prophet did it, that means something can't be makruh?
I assume so, yeah.
Is that always the case if the Prophet does something? I'm going to leave that to you. Check the Usul al-Fiqh. If the Prophet does an action, does it haram? Obviously it can't be haram. Unless it's mansukh. But can it be makruh or not? Right. Number 5, the fifth scenario is, this is a bit more specific now. The thing itself, what you are dealing with, you know that in of itself is haram. In that case, by ijma', Ibn Abdul Barr quotes ijma', it's not permissible. Somebody's giving you food, you know this is haram. Either haram, it was, let's say it's pork, you know it's haram, right? By ijma' you can't have that.
What's the difference between 5 and 2?
Number 2 is more general. That you know this person, all he does is haram, nothing's halal. Number 5 is a specific scenario where the person could have everything halal, but this one particular thing that you're dealing with now, that's haram. So it's like the first 4 like general scenarios, all his money halal, all money haram, more halal, more haram. But this one now, okay, this particular thing, this particular thing in of itself is haram. There's an issue, which is what if you work in a place that has halal and haram, like Tesco's or something, right? Are you allowed to work there even though they sell things which are haram? The ulama say, so it comes under this 5th one. As long as you're not dealing with the haram thing in of itself, then it's permissible. So if you're in a different department, for example, then it'll be permissible now.
If you're working in the till, you have to scan alcohol.
Yeah, so you can scan everything apart from alcohol.
You can't have the judges.
Huh?
You can't work the judges.
Unless you're able to get out of it somehow. No. Somebody said, where can we read the story in full? Okay, I'm guessing that's 5 minutes ago. Story of Imam Ahmed. I don't know. I'm sure if you just type in YouTube, it's a famous story. I'm sure you can find it. A question though is, if somebody let's say calls us to the house, we don't know if their food halal or haram, right? And they're a Muslim. Do we search? We start doing research. Where do you get meat from? Where do you do this? Where do you do that? Huh?
No.
No, you don't. Because there's a Prophet search. Another narration in Bukhari as well. Hadith number 2057. Aisha radiallahu anha, she says that a group of people came to the Prophet and they said, O Messenger of Allah, people come to us with meat and we don't know, did they mention the name of Allah on it or not? The Prophet said, Sammu antum wakulu. Just you say Bismillah, just eat. Yani, the apparent is that the Muslim, they're giving you food, khalas, just eat it. You say Bismillah and you just eat. No. And he said these people that were asking them were new Muslims. Okay? So if there's nothing to necessitate you to stay away from it, then you don't need to stay away from it. On the next page, yeah, that was the issue. Do you research about money? Okay, what if you yourself, you've got haram money, what do you do? Okay? Would this apply to halal restaurants, as in if they say they are halal but aren't HMC? Yeah, so the issue with HMC is that they've done good, but the bad is that if somebody does not have HMC, everyone thinks, oh, they don't have the HMC, you can't either. HMC is never a condition to make something halal, right? So if you go in and the Muslims, yeah, and especially if they seem you're practicing like the Muslims and they sing salam to you and all that stuff, right? Khalas, they say it's halal, it's halal. You trust them in that? No. It's HMC, obviously if good, it's like certified and stuff, but it's not a condition. No. Okay, what if a person has haram money? What does he do with it? If you have haram money, right, then obviously you can't use that money yourself. So what do? You get rid of it. Now, how do you get rid of it? If all of it is haram, then the ulama say you can't give it in sadaqah. You can't give it in sadaqah. Why? Because sadaqah should be only with money which is pure. What you do instead, for example, you can't give it as zakah. You can't give it in these type of things. But you can use it in something which is general, that people generally benefit from. Building a well, building a pathway. Right? Somebody's got a loan to pay off. You could help them loan. I mean, like kind of like Islamic things. You shouldn't use that money. Even the Quraysh, when the Kaaba was destroyed and they rebuilt it. Do you know why? Or who knows what the area is called? You should know. So the Kaaba is a square, right? Then there's like a semicircle there. What's that semicircle? Huh? No, not Umar. Yeah, I'm forgetting it myself. Hatim, I think it's Hatim. No, Hatim. That is actually part of the Kaaba. That's why during Tawaf, Hatim, yeah. That's why during Tawaf, you're not allowed to go through there. You have to go around it. If you go through it, your Tawaf's not accepted. Why is part of the Kaaba? Now you're going to say to me, it's part of the Kaaba. Like, it's not part of the Kaaba, is it? Right. What happened was, it was originally part of the Kaaba, but then there was a flood in Medina. before the Prophet became a prophet. So because they got destroyed, the Quraysh rebuilt the Kaaba. Now, even though they were mushrikun, they had some sort of religiosity with them, about them. They said, we're only going to rebuild the Kaaba with halal money. Without halal, you can't them and no cheating or anything. Basically, halal money. And they didn't have enough except for the amount that you see now. So that's what they built. They didn't have enough for the rest. So if that's the Quraysh who are just, they know that halal money should be used in these things, then obviously we should know better. If a person has a mixture of halal and haram, what does he do? The halal he keeps and the haram he gives away. If he doesn't know, estimate. If you don't know, you just estimate. That was. Okay. But going back to ambiguous matters now. Why are some rulings ambiguous? Why are things ambiguous? Now, I want to get to the wisdom behind it in a second. But why? Okay? So give me some reasons. Like, for example,
There may not be like a clear evidence.
There may not be a clear-cut evidence. What else?
Maybe two contradictory evidences.
Two contradictory evidences. What else?
Allah will test us.
That's the hikmah. We're going to get to that. I'm not talking about the hikmah. I'm talking about the reason. Why does it occur? Right. This is a long topic. Who knows the book by Shaykh al-Islam? رفع الملام عن أئمة الأعلام, removing the blame from the scholars. It's a book where he talks about the reasons why scholars differ. Okay, so obviously with this I'm taking the first meaning of mushtabihat, where the ulama differ. But he mentions the reason. Now he in reality doesn't mention every reason, because there's different reasons. He looks at it more from the angle of the dalil. Like what? So he says things like maybe a person didn't know the dalil. Maybe they knew it, but it wasn't authentic according to him, and so on, right? But there's other angles as well. Now, I just wanted to mention a benefit here, which is in usul al-fiqh, they say the amal of a mujtahid is doing three things, right? And these are three things which are important as well. The one is called takhrij al-manat, then we have tanqih al-manat, and then we have tahqiq al-manat. تخريج المناط استخراج العلة من غير المذكورة بالاجتهاد. Basically, that's you extracting the reason for the ruling. So I'm not talking about the authenticity of the hadith. Now, this is all talking about understanding. So this is like alcohol is made haram. Why is it made haram? What's the ruling? What's the reason for it? So you extract the illah that intoxicates. There is something called tanqih al-manat. The tanqih is similar. Tanqih al-manat is where you identify the reason from a number of reasons. So let's say there's a ruling, okay? We have the famous story of the man who had a relationship with his family in Ramadan, and the Prophet ﷺ gave him the kafara al-mughalladha, which is to fast for 60 days and so on, right? So this kafara al-mughalladha, why is it given? There's so many possibilities. Is it because he's a man? Is it because he was old? Is it because, if he's a Bedouin, is it Bedouin? Is it because he was Arab? Is it because, so many different reasons. So taqih al-manat is where you get all of the possible reasons, and then you get rid of the ones which are غير مؤثرة, that don't have an effect. So the fact that he's Arab, non-Arab doesn't mean anything, throw that away. The fact that he was old in age, in this scenario doesn't mean anything, throw that away. All the way until you come to the conclusion that, what causes this ruling is the fact that he had relationships in the day of Ramadan. That's why it was given. Simple, easy, example. But that's tanqih al-manat is. It's similar to takhrij al-manat, but slightly different. Takhrij is just removing. Is just extracting the reason. Tanqih is when you get all these possible things, and then you narrow it down, and you get rid of the ones that don't work, and you're left with that one reason. تحقيق المناط is now the other side. تحقيق المناط is now making sure that the illah, that reason, is present in the ruling that you're applying it to. Okay, so there's a new ruling, right? Okay, for example, let's go to alcohol. Yeah? Alcohol is made haram. Why? Because it intoxicates. That's the taqreez and tanqih done. Now we got a new ruling, right? Somebody brings me some water to drink, or special type of water. I say, no, it's haram. Because of iskar, it intoxicates. That's not enough. You have to make sure, does the thing in of itself actually intoxicate or not? Does water intoxicate? No, so the ruling is wrong. So as you can see, so for example, I was speaking to Shaykh Muhammad Maliki about this as well. We were talking about some, kids online, they open like dawah account, showing their face and answering questions. And one of the answers one of those kids gave is that all I'm doing is narrating the fatwa of the ulama. That's all I'm doing. I'm not giving fatwa for myself. And I brought this issue up and the Shaykh agreed. From a form of ijtihad is applying a fatwa on the person who's asking the question. Because what is a fatwa? A fatwa is a specific ruling for the specific person, specific time, specific place. You take that and now you apply it to somebody else in the UK, and that fatwa is 20 years old, 30 years old, in Saudi, for example. For you to apply it here, that's a form of ijtihad. That's a form of ijtihad. So, taking a fatwa and applying it elsewhere, Shaykh Maliki commented, I said it should only be for strong tulab al-ilm. Right? He said, no, it's not even strong tulab al-ilm, it's only for ulama, because it's a form of ijtihad. It's a form of ijtihad. So, this is a fact I wanted to mention, that why I think it's ambiguous. This is one of the reasons why ulama differ in these are things. This is more from usul al-fiqh perspective. Because usul al-fiqh is, all it talks about is extracting the ruling, right? That's what it talks about. What's the wisdom behind having ambiguous things? Why can't everything be clear? As Akh Rayyan mentioned. What's the answer? Allah wants to test us. Who is sincere, who's not sincere, who will go out of their way to try to make it unambiguous, to learn. Maybe it's ambiguous because you don't know. Who's going to take the time out to learn and seek knowledge? It's a test. Are you going to fall into things which are ambiguous or not? Because falling into things which are ambiguous will end up causing you to falling into haram, which we're going to get to in a couple of pages, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. Okay, we need to hurry up now. I don't know why. All this before lesson, even when I left home, I said, today's lesson's quick. And now, anyway, it's a bad habit, huh? It's a bad habit, Allah understand. You know what is in my head, reading it, in my head it seems quick. In my head I was like, yeah, that sentence, half an hour should be good, 45 minutes, that should be alright. Okay, obviously when you explain it, you have to explain it. The next part of the hadith where Islam said, لا يعلمهن كثير من الناس. That many people do not know. So ambiguous matters, many people do not know. Firstly, Prophet didn't say most people. Okay, so this ambiguous matter is not always the case where there's rarely anyone that knows. Right? And then likewise, Prophet didn't say all. So it shows there are people who know. Okay, what's the opposite understanding of this? If there are many people that do not know, there are some people that do know. And who are these people? The ulama. These people are ulama. So therefore, the meaning of mushtabihat in this hadith is referring to mushtabihatun nisbiyah. Subjective, because the ulama will know, or some ulama will know, and others may not know. Therefore, what is obligatory upon us? It's obligatory upon us to go to the ulama and ask and find out and learn. فَاسْأَلُوا أَهْلَ الذِّكْرِ إِن كُنْتُمْ لَا تَعْلَمُونَ. Ask the people of knowledge if you do not know. Then the Prophet said, فَمَنِ اتَّقَى الشُّبُهَاتِ اسْتَبْرَأَ لِدِينِهِ وَعِرْضِهِ وَمَنْ وَقَعَ فِي الشُّبُهَاتِ وَقَعَ فِي الْحَرَامِ. So whoever there's this part of I didn't put the translation. فَمَنِ اتَّقَى الشُّبُهَاتِ اسْتَبْرَأَ لِدِينِهِ وَعِرْضِهِ. I've not put the English for that. So thus, he who avoids ambiguous matters clears himself in regard to his religion and to his honor. But he who falls into ambiguous matters falls into that which is unlawful. Okay? So that beginning part I've missed out. I didn't know. No. Sorry?
He is translated.
After فَمَنِ اتَّقَى الشُّبُهَاتِ اسْتَبْرَأَ دِينِهِ وَعِرْضِهِ. No, read the beginning of the sentence.
But he who falls.
Yeah, that's the problem. So that starts from halfway in Arabic. وَمَنْ وَقَعَ فِي الشُّبُهَاتِ. As for the first part, فَمَنِ اتَّقَى الشُّبُهَاتِ اسْتَبْرَأَ دِينِهِ وَعِرْضِهِ, that part's not there. So I've added it here. So add that part in. Thus he who avoids ambiguous matters clears himself in regards to his religion and his honor. So that part of the sentence is not there. Thus he who avoids ambiguous matters clears himself in regards to his religion and his honor. So you have half a translation, not the full translation. Okay, so here the Prophet is telling us that firstly, whoever stays away from doubtful matters, then he has protected what? His honor and his religion. And whoever falls into shubuhat, these doubtful matters or these ambiguous matters, then he has fallen into haram. So in this sentence here, we have two types of people. First I mentioned. The first type of people are those who stay away from ambiguous matters. They have protected their religion and their honor. Okay, so if you fall into ambiguous matters, then you're not protecting your religion, your honor. Why? Because in terms of your religion, the Prophet said you fall into haram, which I'm going to explain what it means in a second. And as for your honor, because people talk about you. So if you stay away from it, then you're not going to fall into haram, and people are not going to talk about you. That's why, as you mentioned before, you should stay away from things that people might end up talking to you or talking about you regarding in a negative manner. That's why some ulama have said, may Allah have mercy upon a slave who protects himself from backbiting. May Allah have mercy upon the slave who protects himself from backbiting. So the foundation is that a Muslim honors himself and do not belittle yourself in the sight of Allah and also in the sight of the people. Muru'ah and Muru'ah is very important, right? So some people say, oh, we don't care about what the people think. It's correct in certain scenarios, not in all scenarios. In those scenarios where, by you sticking to the sunnah and not falling into that which is clearly haram, without a doubt. But in matters which are doubtful and so on, and there's no need for you to do it, then you should stay away from it. And Ibn Rajab did mention a few stories. There's one story of Anas radiallahu anhu, which I did want to mention. Which is Anas radiallahu anhu. He left for Jum'ah. فَرَأَى النَّاسِ قَدْ صَلُّوا وَرَجَعُوا. When he left, he saw the people had already prayed and they've returned. So Jum'ah is finished. People are coming out. And he got late. Either he had already prayed somewhere. It doesn't mention a narration, but it could be many options. Maybe he's prayed somewhere else. Maybe he was ill and he's excused for not praying. على كل حال, what did he do? فاستحيا. He became shy. وَدَخَلَ مَوْضِعًا لَا يَرَاهُ النَّاسُ فِيهِ. He entered into a place where no one can see him. Basically hid. And then he said, مَنْ لَا يَسْتَحْيِي مِنَ النَّاسِ لَا يَسْتَحْيِي مِنَ اللَّهِ. The one who does not have shyness from the people, he has no shyness from Allah. The one who does not have shyness from the people has no shyness from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That subhanAllah shows the fiqh of the Sahaba radiallahu anhum. So this is the first type of people. The second type of people are those who fall into ambiguous matters. The Prophet said regarding these people, وَمَنْ وَقَعَ فِي الشُّبُهَاتِ وَقَعَ فِي الْحَرَامِ. Whoever falls into ambiguous matters will fall into haram. What does he mean by falling into haram? The ulama, or Ibn Rajab rahimahullah, in his explanation, he mentioned two things. And Ibn Daqiq al-Eid mentioned it in Ihkam al-Ahkam, so maybe Ibn Rajab took it from there. He mentions two things. He says, firstly, it could be ذريعة ووسيلة إلى الحرام. It could be a means of falling into haram later. So maybe that actually in of itself isn't haram, but you keep doing it, eventually it's going to cause you to fall into haram. And of the two, even though both are correct, it seems like the Prophet is referring a bit more to this one because of the example that he gave that we're going to read shortly. Right? Or the example, quickly I'll summarize the example. The Prophet said that it's like a shepherd who's walking with his flock on the boundary of his land. What's going to happen? In of itself, he's not doing anything wrong. But one sheep gets overexcited and it goes over the line, then he's transgressed. So by you keep doing it, it can lead you to doing haram. And then the second answer the ulama give is when a person does an ambiguous matter, you don't know if it's halal or haram. So if you keep doing them, some are definitely going to be haram. So you are falling into haram. Let's say you do it 10 times. What's the likelihood of all 10 being halal? Some are going to be haram. Maybe the first one, maybe the second one, maybe the third one. So therefore we need to protect our religion and our honor. Some of the Salaf, they would say, من عرض نفسه للتهم فلا يلومن من أساء به الظن. Whoever exposes himself to accusations, then do not blame the one who has evil thoughts regarding you. Meaning, if you keep doing stuff and the people are looking at you like, what's this guy doing? Don't get upset then if the people are thinking bad about you. Don't say حسن الظن. Allah says, يا الذين آمنوا اجتنبوا كثيرا من الظن. Stay away from a lot of assumption. And some assumptions, fine. If it's in the right place. Right? You should always have good assumptions. But sometimes, for example, you see a person who's always hanging around with certain types of people, always going to certain places. You don't see him in the masjid. And he comes asking you for your daughter's hand in marriage. What are you going to say? Husn dhan? Yeah, it's fine. No, you're not. Right? Now, by you thinking bad, he can't turn around and say, oh, this guy thinks bad of me. How can he judge me? You've put yourself in that situation. And even the Prophet ﷺ, what did he say? Innaha Safiyah. So protecting our honor is something which Islam comes with. So going back to the issue of wara', it says here that some of the Salaf, they will leave off permissible actions out of fear of falling into haram. Some of the people of knowledge would say sins are the path to kufr. So if you're first, what's going to happen? You can play with halal matters. I'm going to do a lot of halal. Then you're going to start going into ambiguous matters. Then that's going to make you fall into that which is haram. And then slowly it's going to lead to where? It's going to lead to kufr. That's why a person who sticks to the sharia is a fortress, protecting him. If you pray your sunan, that protects your obligatory salawat. If you're somebody who always prays the sunnah salah, how are you going to miss your fard? But if you don't care about your sunnah whatsoever, the only thing you do is pray your fard, then maybe the one time here and there you might slip up. Okay? And that's why there's another dalil in the religion, which to us everyone agrees upon, even though Imam Malik used it a bit more, but everyone agrees upon it, on the asl. And like the details of it and where exactly it's implemented, they might differ. But there's a dalil called Saddu al-Dhara'i'. Saddu al-Dhara'i'. Anyone know what this is? Naeem? Tanzil? Come on, you know what it is. Oh, that's Riyadh, but it's not here. Right, anyone else? Riyan? Sadd al-dhara'i literally means blocking the paths, i.e. blocking the paths to evil. So some ulama would use this dalil to say that certain things were haram, not because the thing in of itself is haram, but because it leads to haram. And somebody may turn around and say, well, if the thing's not haram, how can he say it's haram? The religion comes with this. وَلَا تَسُبُّوا الَّذِينَ يَدْعُونَ مِن دُونِ اللَّهِ فَيَسُبُّوا اللَّهَ عَدْوًا بِغَيْرِ عِلْمٍ. Do not curse other idols. Why? Other deities. Why? فَيَسُبُّوا اللَّهَ, because in return they're going to curse Allah. You know, Kitab al-Tawheed, how many times the Prophet would prohibit the Sahaba from doing certain things? Sometimes the thing in of itself wasn't shirk, because it could lead to shirk. The Prophet would stop it. So Sadd al-Dhara'i is a very important dalil in the religion as well. The Prophet said in the hadith, which is weak, but nonetheless the meaning is there. The slave does not reach a level of al-muttaqeen until he leaves off that which there's no problem with it, out of fear of falling into that which there is a problem. Al-Hasan, al-Basri, he said, at-taqwa remains with the muttaqeen as long as they leave off a lot of halal out of fear of haram. Those that have zuhud, the high level of wara, they don't just leave off things which are doubtful. Zuhud, those people that would leave off halal things, they call it fudul al-mabahat. Things which are halal but there's no benefit to it. Right? So if you want to be to the highest level, even things which are halal and there's no benefit to it, leave it. If there is a benefit, of course you can do it. Even if the benefit sometimes is for you to relax, just to cool off so you don't burn out, la bas. But to do it too much so it ends up wasting your time, the zuhad will stay away from that. So if he said, a slave will attain the reality of Iman until he places a barrier for himself, until he places for himself a barrier between halal and haram, and until he leaves off sins and what resembles it. So you have to put that barrier between halal and haram. And what can that barrier be? It can be just leaving off things which are even halal, anything which is doubtful. You leave it off out of fear of falling into that which is haram. And then the next page, that's the example the Prophet gave. كالراعي يرعى حول الحمى يوشك أن يرتع فيه ألا وإن لكل ملك حمى ألا إن حمى الله محاربه. Like the shepherd who pastures around a sanctuary. He takes his cattle around the boundary. All but grazing therein. Truly every king of the sanctuary, and truly Allah's sanctuary is his prohibitions. So what's the boundaries of Allah? That which he has made haram. And this, subhanallah, it also shows us how the Prophet ﷺ was in teaching, that he was the best teacher. Because the Prophet ﷺ, after giving a ruling, he gave an example. And that is not only the way the Prophet ﷺ would be, but also the Quran is like that as well. وَتِلْكَ الْأَمْثَالُ نَضْرِبُهَا لِلنَّاسِ. That these are examples that we give to the people. وَمَا يَعْقِلُهَا إِلَّا الْعَالِمُونَ. Okay, so this hadith now concludes with an extra point the Prophet mentions, which is ألا وإن في الجسد مضغة إذا صلحت صلح الجسد كله وإذا فسد الجسد كله وهي القلب. ألا وهي القلب. Truly in the body there is a morsel of flesh which, if it is whole, or if it is rectified, then the whole of the body is rectified, and if it is corrupt, then the rest of the body is corrupt. ألا وهي القلب. Truly it is the heart. This part here talks about the importance of rectifying our hearts. And Imam rahimahullah, he mentions in the explanation, when he talks about some of the benefits here, he mentions how, one of the benefits of the hadith is that it shows us the obligation of rectifying our hearts before rectifying our actions. Because what's the asl? The asl is our hearts. And the ulama, they say, the heart is the king and the limbs are his troops. Meaning whatever the king is going to command, that's what it's going to do. And subhanAllah, the ulama say that actually in this scenario, the heart has a higher station than the king. Because the king can command something, but some people can still not listen and betray him. But you can't do that with the heart. Whatever the heart is, whatever it commands, that's what the limbs will do. And this is why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, what does he look at? He doesn't look at our appearances. But as Prophet said, إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يَنظُرُ إِلَى صُورِكُمْ أَمْوَالِكُمْ. Where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not look at our outer appearance or our wealth, وَلَكِنْ يَنظُرُ إِلَى قُلُوبِكُمْ وَأَعْمَالِكُمْ. Where he looks at your hearts and your actions. And the asl is the heart. And the actions are based upon the heart. So we have to make sure we look after our heart, because that's the only thing that will benefit us in the hereafter. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, يَوْمَ لَا يَنْفَعُ مَالٌ وَلَا بَنُونَ إِلَّا مَنْ أَتَى اللَّهَ بِقَلْبٍ سَلِيمٍ. On that day, where nothing will benefit a person, no wealth, no children, except for the one who comes with a sound heart. Now, what is a sound heart? Now, it'd be good if you guys can, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, research this. Maybe just read Tafsir ibn Kathir. He brings a lot of aqwal. But the general meaning of sound heart is keeping it sound and clean from everything which is displeasing to Allah. So a lot of people just mention good manners, right, and not having jealousy. The biggest thing is what was this first the greatest sin to Allah? Shirk. Keeping your heart free from shirk, and then keeping it free from innovations, and then keeping it free from major sins, and then minor sins and all these other bad akhlaq that they mention. And subhanAllah, in Ta'azim al-Ilm we took this, the first ma'aqid, the first principle. What was the first principle there?
Clean the heart, the vessel of knowledge.
Clean the vessel of knowledge, Allah barak, right? So you can go back to there to add a lot of aqwal and details, inshallah. What I will mention is two things though. If you go on the next page, it says, what do you protect the heart from? Now, there's a lot of things that we protect the heart from, and there's a lot that can be said, a lot of hadith regarding it. But to summarize, there are two main things that we should protect the heart from. The first is doubts, and the second is desires. So I'll quickly speak about each of them. There's a lecture that Sheikh Abdul Latif Shamani gave. Very good lecture, you should listen to it. He gave it in Nelson, Sunnah. I can't remember what the title was. The title was the ways of staying away from, or protecting ourselves, protecting ourselves from fitan, I think it was called. Protecting ourselves from fitan. Ala kulli hal is the only lecture he's got there. Just type in Sheikh Abdul Latif Shamani. The summary of it is this, okay? The first thing that we have to stay away from is doubts, okay? Now, the ulama, they say that the cause of doubts is an illness in our knowledge, and the cause of desires is an illness in action. Okay, so how do we rectify, how do we protect ourselves from it? What we do is, in terms of doubts, how do we rectify ourselves? How do we protect our hearts from doubts? Is that we seek Islamic knowledge in the correct manner, which ultimately is learning the Quran and the Sunnah upon the understanding of the Salaf of this Ummah by studying at the feet of ulama. By studying at the feet of well-grounded, nurturing ulama. Studying the Book of Allah, the Sunnah of Messenger ﷺ, upon the understanding of the Salaf of this Ummah, at the feet of the well-grounded, nurturing scholars. As for shahwat, subhanAllah, just before I mention what the Shaykh mentioned, how we protect us from shahwat, he did mention Fa'idah of Ibn Qayyim rahimahullah. And actually just before I mention the Fa'idah of Ibn Qayyim, he talked about how does shahwat enter into the heart. And he quotes Imam al-Qurtubi where he says, أوسع القنوات, the greatest of channels and pathways to the heart is Bab al-Nazar, is our eyesight. Everything that we read, that we see, that we think about, it's going to affect our heart. What's the greatest of them? It's the heart. It's looking. That's why, as a Muslim generally, especially in these times, and especially as a Talib al-Ilm, you have to protect our eyes, what we see, lower our gaze. And then he mentions the benefit of Ibn Qayyim rahimahullah, where Ibn Qayyim says there are 4 ways how it enters into the heart. He says, firstly, there are lahazat. Lahazat means moments, i.e., a moment of looking. A moment of looking. Then number 2, khatarat. Khatarat means thoughts. First it was a glance, it was a look, but now you're thinking about it. It's become a thought. And obviously within thoughts there are different levels. We don't need to go into that right now. But then the third is lafazat. It becomes words now, you're talking about it. And the fourth is khutuwat. What's khutuwat? Steps. Now you actually go out to do it. So how do we protect ourselves from it? Firstly is to have the taqwa of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The taqwa and the fear of Allah, and acknowledge that Allah is observant and supervising over us. And he mentioned an ayah, subhanAllah, powerful, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Ya bunayya, talk about when Luqman gives advice to his son, Ya bunayya innaha in takum mithqala habbatin min khardal fatakun fi sakhra aw fi samawati aw fi al-ardi ya'ti biha Allah. That even if it's like a mustard seed on a rock in the middle of the desert, Allah knows it and He'll bring it. Then Allah finishes the ayah by saying, Inna Allah latifun khabir. That Allah is latif, He's generous, He's gentle. And Shaykh is powerful, he said, subhanAllah, and Allah is khabir, Allah is all-knowing. He says, subhanAllah, latifi is powerful because it shows that we sin so much, but out of the gentleness of Allah and the mercy of Allah, He still protects us, He doesn't expose us. Another thing is to learn more about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَمَا قَدَرُ اللَّهَ حَقَّ قَدْرِهِ. And Shaykh Muhammad Abdul Wahhab, he finishes Kitab al-Tawheed with this ayah. That they do not venerate Allah as He should be. Because that's what it comes back to. If you truly venerated Allah, why would you turn to anyone other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Amen. Some of the Salaf said, they were asked, how do I lower my gaze? And they said, know that the sight of Allah is before your sight. Meaning, if you look at something, before you've even looked at it, Allah already knows. And then he says that, and to protect our hearts, يحتاج إلى الصبر ومجاهدة النفس. It requires a lot of patience and it requires you to strive and fight your nafs. It's not something easy, especially in our times. But if you strive, then Allah will make it easy for you. وَالَّذِينَ جَاهَدُوا فِينَا لَنَهْدِيَنَّهُمْ سُبُلَنَا. Those that strive for our cause, we will guide them to the path. Now, just the last thing here, it says refuting the sinners who say at-taqwa ha-huna. Some people say that, you can't judge me, only Allah can judge me, when you're doing something clearly haram. And I've talked about this before, it's just a statement that they want to say as an excuse to sin. But this hadith refutes it, because the hadith says, إِذَا صَلَحَ صَلَحَ الْجَسَدُ كُلُّهُ. If the heart is sound, then the limbs will be sound. Meaning, if your limbs are not sound, then your heart is not sound. So the fact that you're doing sins, and then you say, don't worry, my heart is clean, right? La. If your heart was clean, you wouldn't be doing it. If your heart was clean, then you wouldn't be doing it. The limbs is only a manifestation of what is in the heart. So, and if you notice, I put at-taqwa ha-huna in brackets, or in speech marks, because that's a hadith. Prophet said, at-taqwa ha-huna, taqwa ha-huna, taqwa ha-huna. The taqwa is here, taqwa is here, taqwa. I think it's hadith number 23, we'll take it inshallah. But somebody, if they know the hadith and want to use the hadith against you, then that is understanding of the hadith. Wallahu alam. And with that, alhamdulillah. One more thing. The importance of Tawheed and rectifying the hearts. I've put in brackets, read Ibn Rajab's explanation. Just going to read this part here. I'm reading it quick because of time, and then we'll go, inshallah. But Ibn Qayyim rahimahullah, when he talks about, so Ibn Rajab, when he explains this, he says, after mentioning this hadith, he says, I'm going to say it quick, so you might not be able to write it down. Please watch the recording. He says, فيه إشارة إلى أن صلاح الحركات العبد بجوارحه واجتنابه للمحرمات واتقاء للشبهات بحسب صلاح حركة قلبه. It's an indication that the rectification of a person's actions and him staying away from haram and staying away from ambiguous matters, it all depends on the rectification of a person's heart. فإن كان قلبه سليما ليس فيه إلا محبة الله. If his heart is salim, then there'll be nothing in it except the love of Allah, and the love of what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves, and the fear of Allah, and the fear of falling into what Allah dislikes. And if that is the case, then all of his actions will be rectified, and he will stay away from that which is haram and stay away from that which is ambiguous out of fear of falling into haram. And if his heart is corrupt, then the desires will overtake him and he will follow his desires, and he will seek that which Allah dislikes, and it will corrupt all of his actions, and this will cause him to fall into that which is fall into sins, and that which is ambiguous due to the amount of desire in his heart. And nothing will benefit a person except for the qalb salim, except for the sound heart, as Allah mentions the ayah. He says, and the sound heart is that heart which is free from everything which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala dislikes, and it is the heart which has nothing except the love of Allah and the love of what Allah loves, and the fear of Allah and the fear of what Allah wants to stay far away from. And this is very important. Now he says, then there's no rectification for the hearts until within it is cemented the knowledge of Allah, the greatness of Allah, the love of Allah, the fear of Allah, the respect of Allah, the hope of Allah, reliance upon Allah, and the heart is full with all of that. And this is the reality of Tawheed, and it's the meaning of La ilaha illallah. So there is no rectification of the heart until Allah becomes the divine deity that you worship and that you know and that you love and that you fear Him alone without any partner. Hassan al-Basri, he said, I have not looked with my eyes, not said with my tongue, and not moved with my hands, and not walked towards my feet until I ponder and I look, is it an act of obedience or disobedience? If it's obedience, I do it. If it's disobedience, I stay away from it. Ibn Rajab, he says, these are people whose hearts were rectified and nothing is left, nothing other than Allah, other than the intent of Allah is in there. And then due to that, the hearts or the limbs are rectified. So they did not move except for the sake of Allah and except for the pleasure of Allah. And Allah knows best. So the point of this is that the greatest way that we can rectify our hearts, as Ibn Rajab says, is Tawheed. It is Tawheed. And with that, I think Salah is starting. Is it? What time is it? It's probably starting, right. Subhanakallah wa bihamdika, la ilaha illa anta, astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. I'll come back up.